This is a code walkthrough for the example file SplitPersonFileRead.java. What this file is going to do is it's going to extend what we saw in a prior example where we showed how to convert a line of text into a person object. We've now wrapped the read of an entire file around this, and we're going to read each line of a file line by line and feed each line of text through this method and create a series of person objects. So we're just taking the prior example and extending it a bit. So a couple things to point out. This involves reading from a file, and notice that we've got a couple of imports here of scanner. We're going to use that to read from a file. To set up a scanner, we also need a file object, and we also need this IO exception class. And furthermore, we also need this throws IO exception after the standard main method interface. These details were discussed in more detail in some prior lecture materials on looping and file reading. So if any of this looks unfamiliar, I'd encourage you to go back and review that material at this time. So as always, let's start by compiling this file, and we'll set a breakpoint on main, and we will start single-stepping our way through here. So for starters, it's going to prompt us for the name of the file using our utilities file in the read string method, and the file that we're trying to read from is named with the same name as the class. It's called SplitPersonFileRead.text, and it looks like this. And each one of these records is going to become one person object, and we have all the data needed to set up person objects: last name, first name, date of birth, gender, height, and weight. So we want to loop through and read these three lines and turn each one of these into an individual person object. So let's read that file name. It's going to be SplitPersonFileRead.text. So we've read it in, and we're going to set up a file object using that file name, and then we're going to turn around and use this file object to set up a scanner that is tied to that file. So once we've done that, and we'll just echo out the file that we're reading from, once we've set up this scanner, this is really no different than reading from the command line from user input text. We're simply reading from a file now. And all this while loop is doing is, as long as there are still lines of data to be read, we're going to read each line in individually as one single line of text. Then we're going to feed this line of text through this create person code that we saw in a prior example, and we're going to convert this one string. We're going to parse it up, create a person object, and then return that person object in the form of this P. This is a person object that we've declared up here. And then all we're going to do with it is we're going to print it out. So let's go through that for the first person, and I'm going to give ourselves a little more room to see here. But here's the first person we created, and let's look at this file again. So John Doe, birth date, male. Yep, this is exactly the person object we expected from this first line. So then in our code, we'll simply update the number of objects we read and go back around and read the next one. Turn it into a person, as we see here, Carol Barker. We'll print it out, and let's just check it to what we've got. Yep, Carol Barker is a new person object that we've printed out, and we will advance for the next person. Read one more line of text, run that line of text through this method we've created, and notice that we're calling this method statically from another file. We carved out all of these instructions into their own dedicated method, and so now we can reuse that in this other client code. So we'll create one more object for some guy named Jimmy Java, and we'll print it out and take a look at this, and that is indeed the person created from this line of text. Great. So we've read 3 records. There are no more records, so we'll finish up by saying that we've created 3 persons. Now notice here that we're simply overwriting this person object every time because we're not doing anything but printing this. But I think we can see it wouldn't be too much of a leap to store all of these created objects into an array of persons. And we may see that example in our near future as well. So we're done executing this code. Let's just burn through it one time. Split person file case sensitivity read dot text, and if we look at all this output, we've created 3 persons and printed them out. Just to show that there's no hocus pocus going on here, let me add one more record here. How about, I'm just making names up. Susie Smith, born on January 9th, 2000, female, 1.8 meters in height, 70 kilos in weight. We will save this and let's run this one more time. Split person file read.text. If you're doing this for yourself, you might want a little shorter file name, but we'll enter that and we'll scream through and convince ourselves that we've added a line here and it's easily reflected in the code that we've just generated. Okay, so again, what we've done here is we've shown how to go from converting one single line of text into an object. We can take that and do the same thing for a whole file's worth of input data, which is really the way to go if you've got a bulk amount of data. Okay, that's it for this example.